Welcome back to the Sound for More channel, and welcome back to another tutorial on Groove Rider 2. Before I continue, I would like to remind my viewers to subscribe as it helps with growing the channel. Thank you very much. And if you would like to support what I do, please do check the instruction contained in each video description. But it's also enough that you comment, like, subscribe so that the channel keeps growing and brings you back more tutorials, giveaways, etc., etc. So let's start the journey explaining how we select sound inside Groove Rider, because after all, you want to make music, right? So you want to create your songs, etc., etc. So the first thing that you might come across when you load Groove Rider 2 is this default pattern. Okay, as a default pattern loaded. If you press play, of course, it will play there. And that is actually fine, right? And remember, you have a mixer. If you want to adjust a little bit the volume, do it there so it doesn't obviously startle you or surprise you. And that's actually better. Okay, so but let's concentrate on sound. So we will be in this view called sound. Let's click on where it says default pattern, and let's click on new. So we are going to create a new pattern. It says a blank init pattern will be created. The current unsaved changes will be lost. Are you sure to proceed? Yes. Okay, so now what you have only part one with a synth. How do I know it is a synth? Well, there is an oscillator there, and if I press on the edit, you can see we are editing the parameters of that oscillator, which is a synth. Now we are on the tab chords. Let's click on keys, and let's click again on keys to have this keyboard view, right? Now we are on part number one. And we have one layer, and let's focus on layers, parts, and how to introduce sounds in this tutorial. So if you just click on layer one, nothing happens. If you click on the plus, nothing happened. If you click and hold, however, you get a menu where you can copy a layer, change the range of your key, save your layer preset, or delete that layer. I'm going to select delete layer. So in this case, you go to have one part. It moves by default to the part one screen of view, right? And you don't have any layer, and therefore you cannot produce any sounds when you press on the keyboard. Hopefully that makes sense. This is where you define the default configuration for that part. And of course, you have many parts that you can configure up to 16. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Now, in order to have some sound, you need to add a layer. So again, if you just press only once on the plus sign, nothing happens. Press, click and hold, and you have a number of options. So let's go through them. The first one is add synth, which is what you have seen when I initialized the pattern. Okay, so this is a normal synth. Powerful synth, of course. And if I click on the edit again here, you don't see the parameters of the synth, but it is a synth. And of course, I can click here and hold and add another layer, and then I can combine them. But that is not the purpose of this tutorial. So click and hold again on layer one and remove it. So we've seen how you can add a synth. Click and hold again. Next, we can add a sampler. So again, nothing sounds here. And that's because there is no sample loaded. Click on load here. Then you can import from a files, or you can import a sample folder. Okay, click on the first one so that we import the A file, and then of course browse to something that you have available, and like a piano note here, and selecting, click open. Now it says one sample is imported. Again, if you press any keys, nothing happens. Click load again, and then at the top here you have piano waveform. And now you click on the X, you can see the sample which has been loaded. Of course, it needs to be normalized, things like that, which you can easily do. Okay, but that is more for another tutorial. Click and hold here again and delete the layer. And there is a reason why I'm showing you also this deletion of layer in a second. Click again, and you can add a wavetable. Again, similar thing, click, you need to load a wavetable. You can import it, of course, but there is also the possibility to use banks, which I'm going to show you in a bit. Again, here you can remove the layer. Next, we have the ability to add a sound font, and again, you can load a bank, and we have a bank available, which I previously used. Double click on it, and then you can see that here we have available a number of sound fonts. So it's quite rich with what it has by default. Again, click here, hold, and remove that layer. Click again and hold. Next, we can add a pure acid bass. And that's great. If you are familiar with JimAudio pure acid, then you know what I'm referring to. So really great. Now let's remove that layer, and then let's add Poison 202. And again, another fantastic app from JimAudio. Works really, really great. Click it and hold again and remove that layer. Next, we can add a drum track. When you do that, it will ask you to change the part type. At the moment, the part type was melodic. I'm going to say yes. And now if I go back to part 1, it says the part type is drum rack or a drum track. And you can see you have additional arrow left and right with a symbol of what you are playing there in terms of drum kit. So the moment is kick, which is, you can see here at the bottom it says kick, and then of course if you move to the right and move to the snare, move to the left and move back to the kick. Hopefully that makes sense. Now if I click and hold on the kick, I don't have the delete layer. This is why I was showing it to you. You have clear layer. You can clear the layer, but the part remains the same as a drum rack. So click and hold on part 1 and then select clear part. It will ask you to confirm that, and then you go back to default and it will remove here the layer of the drum rack. Okay, so there's a bit of difference there. Click and hold here. You can also add a new pure acid drums as well, and you can, which of course it will change again. And here it is. And then, of course, click and hold here. This time you can clear the part, and he asks you yes or no. So different. When he does that, he removes that completely that layer under part number 1. So there's a bit of different behaviors depending on what you have selected, right? And then you can add, for example, an AUV frame. And you can see sometimes it takes a bit of time to load it, but eventually gets there, and you select one, and you have to click twice, select, and then another click to load it, and there it is. Again, click and hold here, and you can remove the layer again. And lastly, we can also add an effect layer for MIDI, which I will show you in an upcoming tutorial, but this is where you could load, for example, a sequencer, chord jam, etc., etc. And of course, you can paste a layer as well. So that's one way to bring in sounds in terms of different synth, different synthesis methods, sound fonts, etc., etc. But of course, there is also another easier way, which is browse. You click on browse, and then first of all, pay attention on the left-hand side that you have your user bank, which is selected by default. And if you start to open, you might not see a lot apart from what you imported earlier, like for example, this one. It says I imported a piano wave, and if I scroll to the left, and give me access to menu where I can, for example, delete there. If I press the down arrow here, I will close that and reopen the others. That is how it works. Okay, you need to get used to it. But there is not a lot here because it's your user bank. If you go to bank A, which you come by default, you can then expand sample, and you have different folders like so. Then you can go, for example, on ROM sample, double click on it, and you can go to vocal, and then you can click, and when you click, it will also play the sample.
Bass! Automatic. Come on.
And then you can click load on part 1. Now, when you load it in part 1,
Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on.
Come on, come on, come on.
of course, the pitch will be shifted depending on what you press on the keys.
Come on. Come on.
Come on, come on.
Okay, so hopefully that's clear. You can go back to browse. You can go back up to a level or folder, or you can close the samples here, category, and then you can go next to wavetable. And again, you can sample them. And when you're done, it says load part 1, layer 1. Okay, so you can see a layer 1 created. You have a wavetable, and you know it's a wavetable by the way it shows, but also you can change the wave position here. Also here. Okay, back to the browse. Let's close that, and we can load sound fonts, which I showed you earlier, so I'm not going to go through that again. But you can also load a layer preset, which is really important, okay? Again, you can press on one. And then you can load it. And it will load that layer here, and we'll select the right synthesis, whether it is a normal synth, whether it is a sound font, etc., etc. But it will load that into a layer. Okay? Go back to the browser, and then you can load part. When you load a part, it may load more than one layer. So it will say overwrite layers. You can see it says overwrite layers. In this case, there is only one layer, but there will be other cases where, for example, you have more than one layer, like in this one, it has loaded 2 layers. So it is a part preset, which might contain multiple layers, while instead, if you load just, for example, a layer preset, that would be a preset for that layer only. And then lastly, you have a drum rack preset, which again, you can sample. And of course, you can load into part 1, and then you can close that, and there you are. Hopefully, this gives you an introduction on how you can add instrument, synth, different synth engines, and also how to browse presets. Okay, it is extremely powerful in terms of what you can load from preset. Is really, really great. I love this view. And here, by the way, you can adjust the volume on your headphones as well, which is fantastic to have that option there. But hopefully now you understand the difference between part layers, all right, because it's very important as we move forward. And of course, you have seen how powerful it is and how many different options we have here. Synth, sampler, wavetable, sound font, pure acid bass, Poison 202, a drum rack, pure acid drums, and then of course you can bring in all your audio unit instances, UV-free, and also your MIDI effects. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the tutorial, and as always, see you next time. Bye.